it's Jason from Pro Guitar Studio. Welcome back. Today I have a really fun lesson for you. So we're going to take a look at how to play the song Pawn Shop by Sublime. And we're also going to use the looper here that I've received from the guys at Flamma. Now, they sent me this looper to test out. I have no affiliation with them, and I'm going to give you my honest review of this actual pedal as we go through it. But I figure it's a fun way to actually show you this pedal in action and then also show you how to do this loop. So what you heard at the beginning was just me going through this pedal and actually using the drums that are on here, which is a pretty cool feature. And I'm just laying down a really simple loop, 2 parts. Okay, so I have 2 chords, and I also have a rhythm part. That's pretty straightforward. And then that combined with the drums, like I was saying, and then I put some lead guitar on top with a bit of distortion. So it all combines together. It makes it a lot of fun to play along with. And I'll go over some of the features of the pedal too, so you can get an idea of how this works, and maybe some of the things that you might want to consider as you're looking to purchase a loop pedal. So starting off here, I'm going to show you how to play this loop, and then I'll talk a bit about how it would work with the pedal, okay? So whatever loop pedal you have, you can do this. So it doesn't have to be the Flamma pedal I'm talking about here. And by the way, this is the Flamma FF20. I don't know if you can see that on there. There we go. All right, so the first part of the loop I'm going to do is the bass line. So we're doing it on the guitar. I'm not going to pretend I'm a bass, so I'm going to play it as a bass guitar line. I'm going to play 5/7 on the A string, and then 5/5 on the D string. And in the recording there, I palm muted, just to give it a bit of punch. And I do that same thing again. Then I come down 7/5 on the 5th string, 7 on the 6th string, to 5 on the 5th. All right, now the first part, the first 2 notes are what we'll consider pickup notes. So this is the hard part about looping, is when you do this, you have to go, and that's the point there where you have to actually hit the pedal on, okay? So this pedal here, or any pedal with a drum loop in the background, I also have a Boss RC3, and it actually works really good because it sort of locks you into the rhythm on the actual pedal. So what that means is that sometimes you get a weird glitch if you don't kick in at the right time, especially when you're first learning. So for anyone just getting into looping, I suggest if you're able to get some kind of pedal, loop pedal with a drum feature or a metronome feature, it makes it a lot easier because you can lock right into the loop and it will sort of start it right at the beat, as opposed to like if you hit the switch just a millisecond too early, sometimes it can sound a little weird. You can hear little glitches in there. So this here is like the last 2 notes of the previous measure, and then this is the starting part of the first measure. So when I go here, the guitar chord that comes in is an E minor. Now there's many ways we could play it. I'm doing a bar chord, but I'll show you a few ways, okay? So after we get that main loop, 1, 2, 3, 4. So making sure you hit this on number 1, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to play an E minor bar chord that comes next. So once that's in the loop, I'm going to go E minor. So 7th fret all the way from 5th string to 1st string. Ring and pinky on the 4th and 3rd string. Middle finger on the 2nd string, 8th fret, okay? So 7, 9, 9, 8, and then 7 at the bottom is a bar. If you can't bar, you can even just hold those like that, okay? So E minor, and what I'm doing here is I'm going to go rest, strum, rest, strum, and if you can get it really staccato, it's what you hear in the recording. We're going to go down to a D bar chord, and we're going to play the 5th fret, string number 5, and ring finger on the 7th fret of string number 2, 3, and 4. But you can even just do those 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings. Okay, that's the full bar chord. Now, to make it sound more like the recording, I think what he's doing there is just the first 3 strings, okay? So from the 1st string, 7, 8, 9. So same thing, rest, strum, and then down to a D, which is 5 on the 1st string, 7 on the 2nd, 7 on the 3rd. Rest, strum, rest, strum, rest, strum, rest, strum. Okay, so that's our chord part. And like I said, we can do it in a variety of ways. So if you want to do that bar like this, sometimes it's easier to think of that if you know how to play bar chords than to do the triads. Okay, and that's our chord part. So those 2 parts together, I just looped it twice just to make it a little more interesting. It gives you more of a drum fill. And then I went on top with the... And I basically just improvise what they're doing in the song. Now, I didn't copy the solo note for note, but I took some ideas that I sort of hear in the song. Mostly E minor pentatonic, but some notes from the E natural minor. And I added a bit of gain on top, right? But I went 5, 7 on the 5th string, to 5 on the 4th string, back to 7 on the 5th. And this is, again, is a first note of the actual chord. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. All right, so that's going to be added on top there too. So those are the parts of this loop. Now the hard part with the loop pedal is getting used to looping on the actual pedal. So let me go how I did it on this particular unit. So in here, I went through it, I found a drum track that I liked, and so pressing this button here gives us some drum options. This is the drum button on this pedal, but I'm sure if you have a different pedal, some other option will be available to you in terms of different drum sounds. And there's a whole bunch of different genres on this exact pedal, or this particular pedal. I chose genre 11, reggae. It's not a perfect, the drum beats aren't perfect, but this one here, pattern 6 in 4/4 time, worked out really well. I set my level of the drum to 68. You can do it much lower. I just had that set up so you can actually hear it, playing along with the amp that I'm doing here. And then beats per minute, 72. And that's a typical reggae tempo. Now, the good thing in this pedal too is you can actually set it if you want. You can set it so that on the top here we have our different 2 inputs, 2 outputs, right? If you don't have anything stereo going in, you can actually set the drums to going out to just 1 output, so you can set a different speaker up. So I have an actually set up here where I have an old amp that I don't really use, and it has a power amp in. And so I was setting up the drums to go through the right output so that I can go through just the 1 amp. So I have my guitar going through 1 amp and the drums going through another. And I think that sounds a lot better than if you try to combine it. Either is totally fine. I mean, if you only have 1 amp, no problem, but I think that's a cool feature of this pedal as you go through it. So that's how I have it set up here. And then from there, basically this button right here would just click on the drums. Now I took all the inputs out so I can actually show you this pedal here, but that's how you'd actually start the drum beat. Now to record though, you have to go back. So you'd actually have to scroll back and hit here. So this is where we want to go. Back to that, press enter. So we're going back to our loop. And then if you want to start recording, you hit here. Now, I usually start the drums first. So when nothing's actually on, nothing's recorded, I'll hit the drums on first by pressing this button, play along with it a bit, and then when I'm ready, hit record. And it will lock you into the actual beat, right? So if I'm playing on whatever beat, it'll basically lock you in to, let's say, the start of the drum beat instead of starting whenever you press the button, which I think is a great feature too. So if you're used to looping, if you have just a straight looper with no metronome, when you click the looper on, that's when the recording starts. But in this case here, I'm the same with the Boss RC3, basically you hit record, it will start when that drum beat comes back to beat number 1, which I think is great. And it makes it a little more interesting for you because when you actually record it, it sounds good and it sounds in time. So if you have trouble looping, like I said, getting a looper that actually has a feature of a drum machine or something was going to really help you out. Now, one thing I'll say about this pedal that I'm hoping they address in firmware updates in the future is that it does have a volume bump on the output. So if you're used to a certain volume coming out, let's say going through your effects loop, when it comes back in through this pedal, it does give you a slight boost. Now, I don't notice that it colors my tone necessarily, but I prefer it to be just neutral. So it has nothing added to my sound. And so you can choose to boost your sound through something else if you'd prefer, right? So that's the only one thing I noticed with this pedal is that it did have a boost. Measuring with my katana, and this will change depending on what you're measuring, but I measured a 4 decibel increase on the output, although I was playing pretty loud, so it could be not as much as you might think. I noticed it was less going in the front of the amp, so it was less noticeable just going in the front, but through the effects loop, it was much more noticeable. If anyone knows why that is, you can let me know in the comments below. There is software for this though, so if you wanted to update the software, if they do add a patch in the future and update to fix that, I'll add in the description below if that is the case. So if they fix it, I will add that in just so you know. But aside from that, I think this is great. Some drum beats are great, some drum beats are not so great. But I think that's sort of the function of any pedal that has pre-recorded drum beats that aren't a real drummer. So it just gives you something to play with, some timing you can work with. And for anyone just getting their chops up on the guitar, it's a great thing to practice with if you don't have a drummer available. It helps keep you in time, and the more you practice in time with a drum beat or with a song, the better you're going to be as a player. So a lot of people spend too much time playing without any kind of external sense of rhythm. And I think that can be a detriment to your playing because you don't get that push that you get from playing with a drummer or playing with a drum machine, that kind of stuff, right? So definitely very useful. I think it's a great pedal. It's going to live on my board. I think it's a good thing to add. Like I said, I don't like the boost at the end, but I find through my orange amp that I was playing earlier, it didn't change the sound enough where I didn't like it. So I actually didn't mind the sound at all. I will still be playing with this thing. I love the drum ability on there. And I love the fact I can send the drums to a different speaker. So that is a big selling point for me. And also 100 banks that we can save different loops on. So as you make something up that you enjoy, saving it, then going to the next, the next one. That's a great feature. And then also the ability to connect it via USB-C, which is great. And then actually transfer the songs you've recorded onto your computer. So if you like to work with a DAW, so transferring to your computer and actually having it loop in like GarageBand, Logic, Pro Tools, whatever you want, definitely can help a lot. And if you want to take your ideas and just sort of save them so you can send to people, that's a great thing too. So it's almost like a mini recording software here. Now, at home, I also have the Eros Looper, which is a great looping pedal, but it's much more technical and complex. So I wouldn't even put this in the same ballpark. So like the price point of this is much lower. I think there's other pedals. I saw a Moore drum pedal. It's a little different. I've never tried that one, but it seems like it's very similar features. So maybe that's what they're going for here. And you can check that out too. But like I said, you can't go wrong with this. The price point is like half of the Boss pedal that I know of. It's definitely worth your money. So check that out. If you have any questions about looping at all, I'd love to answer your questions. So I think looping in general is a great thing to work with. Even like an inexpensive looper, if you happen to have one, it's going to be a great thing just to build your skills up and play along with something that's actually, we'll say, an external sense of rhythm as opposed to just playing by yourself. So you don't need the drum feature on there, but it definitely adds a lot of character to your playing. And you can sort of work off those rhythms you hear in the drums and add them into your guitar playing too. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have questions, like I said, about looping, let's talk below. I'll see you soon.